Wait. Oh, I forgot to get the chat up. Give me a second. Boink. Yeah, I got hair in my mouth. Hello. So, okay. So the original plan was to have like a write-up ready to like cover the topic for a little bit and then have like a discussion about what we're talking about and all that stuff. That way I'm not just reading an article, but I think I would rather just read an article. It is kind of like way easier for me to just read the article out loud, although it doesn't give me like the strenuous rigor of writing up a summary and like studying and like bringing out critical elements. But I think I do just want to read the article, and then we can discuss it a little. And that way I also have a fresh idea in my mind about what the article is about, because I finished reading it yesterday, and I'm gonna be honest, none of the information stuck in my head. I'm also eating my dinner. So I don't really know what to put on the background. But I think a good follow-up to this is probably Victoria, which is kind of insulting, but I think that's the best way to do it. So I think what I want to do is get myself up on the screen. Like this. I want to be big. Or maybe not. I could just chill in the background. I don't know. That's whatever. But let me see. Okay. So I think the best case scenario... Maybe I can get the article up on the screen, actually. I think the best case scenario is for me to just read the article, and then we can discuss it a little. I think that's the best way to go about doing this. You know? Let me... There we go. Dark mode me. We're dark mode posting. So I think that's the best way to do this. We're not going to do any music, it's just going to be me. With that being said, does anybody have any, like, forewarnings? Or is there anything people would like to talk about before I really jump into the article? Because it's a pretty long one. It's probably going to take me, like, a little over an hour to read the whole thing, if I had to guess. Maybe not. Maybe, like, 30 minutes. You know? Maybe 15. The stream may or may not get political. Very true. They put the damn hammer and sickle on the screen. But hello, everybody. Hello, Graham. Hello, Asher. Hello, Marion. Hello, Mick. And hello, Easton. Hello, Benjamin. What's up? I'm probably not going to do too much chatting when I read this. But we're going to be able to discuss it afterwards. So if you have any questions, be sure to, like, write them down. I want you to also know that I don't know much about Cuba, but I do know a little about communism and revolutions and such. So you've done nothing but exist. All right. Well, feel free to discuss without me. If you have any discussion points, but I think I'm just gonna get into it. That way we can get this done as fast as possible. And then we can really get into the meat of what I went to do tonight, which is discuss. And then if we have some time afterwards, maybe we'll play a video game. But so the article this week was Cuba 50 years later, where is the revolution going? This was a pretty relevant topic last week, as Cuba seems to be on the menu for the Trump administration. They've stolen Venezuela's president. You know, they're attacking Iran. This whole affair seems to be about isolating and taking. I mean, the American administration's foreign policy right now is to consolidate control over, one, the energy market, of course, as it has always done, as well as its own sphere of influence. It seems the direction that the world powers are taking right now is to isolate themselves into cordoned sections of the planet, while, of course, obviously operating to combat each other as much as possible. You might be able to clear a few details about Cuba's history. That'll be good, Grant. That'll be good. Especially because this is just a little coverage of it. We have probably 1 million documents. Theory on the Cuban Revolution, and Cuba itself. We probably have like 1 million on the website itself. We probably have like 1 million documents on Cuba. I mean, at the RCA meeting that I went to this week on Thursday, my big question was, like, is the reason why the Cuban Socialist Revolution so successful, especially in America's backyard, was like a victory in its own context. Because there weren't any imperial lines to draw, you know, because there wasn't like a cultural line that could be like swayed, or like a religious one like there was in like Ireland, for example. And somebody enlightened me to the fact that there was kind of like a line to be drawn from the imperialist powers, and that was along racial lines in Cuba. But the argument was that the condition was just so exploitative in Cuba that everybody was sort of on the same field, so it ended up just being a class relation. You saw a fair share of Trotsky's ideas? Oh, in the paper? Yeah. The RCA is a Trotskyist organization, so I am also a Trotskyist at the current moment. We'll see how that goes, but at the current moment, everything I've read about the guy seems, or everything I've read from the guy seems in line with what I believe in, so. All right, let me get a drink of water, and not that unexpected. A white boy from America. I do live in America. I am from Texas, so. All right, we'll just go straight from the beginning. Oh, it's been a while since I've read on stream this much. I mean, other than all the visual novels I play, like rigorous academic theory. In this article, George Martin looks at how the Cuban Revolution, starting out as a bourgeois democratic revolution, was forced to move against capitalism in order to achieve its aims, a brilliant confirmation of Trotsky's theory of permanent revolution. He also looks at the contradictory tendencies within Cuba in the early years after the revolution. I read The Jungle with no issue? Yeah. He goes on to discuss how Cuba resisted the pressures to follow the capitalist road, as happened in the Soviet Union and China, undergoing a serious crisis in the process. Now, however, there are growing pressures also inside Cuba to adopt the so-called Chinese model, i.e. changes that would eventually lead to the re-establishment of capitalism in Cuba. There are also those who resist this idea and are seeking ways of building socialism on the island. On December 31st, 1958, the Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista met with a small number of his friends to celebrate New Year's Eve at the Colombia military camp. There, they acted out a pre-rehearsed play in which General Eulogio Cantillo speaking in the name of the armed forces, asked Batista to resign in order to re-establish the peace that the country so badly needs. The dictator then appointed Cantillo as supreme chief of the armed forces and fled to the Dominican Republic. The Batista regime, already on its deathbed, was attempting to change face in order to keep Cuba safe for the US and its local lackeys, but it was already too late. The July 26 movement, M26J, was on the verge of taking power, after having waged a 3-year guerrilla war against Batista starting on December 2, 1956, with the landing at Las Coloradas Beach in the Cuban east. The maneuver by the henchmen of the dictatorship and imperialism was clear, to allow Batista to leave the country safely and install a military junta led by Cantillo, to appear to introduce change so that nothing would really change. Above all, U.S. imperialism wanted to defend its interest on the island, and that required a change of personnel. The M26J replied with a call for a general strike. The message by Castro, broadcast by Rebel Radio, in the early hours of January 1st, 1959, was sharp and clear. Revolution, yes. Military coup, no. To steal the victory from the people will only make the war longer. The people, and particularly the workers of the Republic, must remain alert and follow Radio Rebelle, and urgently prepare in all workplaces for the general strike, which will begin as soon as the order was given, if necessary, to counter any attempt at a counter-revolutionary coup. The call for a revolutionary general strike was broadcast a few minutes later. In Havana, the masses went out onto the streets to celebrate the fight of the hated dictator and, together with the revolutionaries who had mutinied in the Castillo del Príncipe jail, took over key points in the city, official buildings, police stations, etc. The forces of guerrilla commanders Che Guevara and Camilo Cienfuegos are still at some distance from the capital and Las Villas, but the apparatus of the dictatorship was collapsing like a house of cards, with its henchmen fleeing as fast as they could. By the end of the day, Castro addressed the crowds in Santiago de Cuba after the surrender of the troops stationed in the city, and a new government was sworn in, presided by Urrutia. On January 2nd, Che and Cienfuegos made a triumphal entry into Havana, and the Cantillo military junta fell. The general strike lasted from January 1st until the 4th, guaranteeing the revolutionary victory and the final collapse of the rotten apparatus of the Batista dictatorship. Congratulations, folks. On January 8th, Castro reached the capital, and the new government of Urrutia took power with the José Miro Cardona as prime minister. The revolution had won. In less than 3 years, capitalism would be abolished on the small Caribbean island. 50 years after those events, the bourgeois machinery of historical revisionism is working at full speed to minimize the importance of the Cuban Revolution and its conquests. The capitalist media in Latin America, Spain, and beyond has been publishing articles written by Cuban counter-revolutionaries, preferably those whose, in the first instance, had some links with the revolution, but who abandoned it once it was pushed inexorably to break with capitalism. For instance, in Chile, Mercurio has published an interview with Hubert Matos. My God, I'm bad at names. The main argument of this campaign is not that in Cuba in '59 there was no need for a revolution. That would be too crass. The more subtle argument is that the revolution was kidnapped by communism and authoritarianism, and that these have shown, 50 years later, to be unable to develop into country. In Argentina, La Nación's headline is "A Dream of Freedom which ended up in a nightmare of oppression." The hired pens of the ruling class add their own false claims that in '58, Cuba was already a developed country, thus minimizing the later advances made possible by the revolution. These kinds of arguments have been repeated over and over again. We can take, as an example, the article written by Andreas Oppenheimer in the Spanish El País, I think, on January 2nd with the title, "Half a Century Later, Cuba Does Not Have Much to Show." This prestigious journalist, who is the Latin American expert at the Miami Herald, makes up a series of facts and statistics to prove not that the Cuban Revolution was not justified, but that it was not worth it. Other Latin American countries, like Costa Rica and Chile, achieved more than Cuba without sacrificing basic freedoms and at a much lesser cost in terms of human suffering. What a scandal! Since when did Chile not sacrifice basic freedoms and had a low cost in terms of human suffering? Ask the tens of thousands who were tortured or killed by the Pinochet dictatorship. Mr. Oppenheimer, who knows these facts very well since he is a Latin American specialist, complains about the high human cost of the revolution, which he estimates as the exile of 10% of the population. But does not tell us anything about nice democratic countries like Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, and many others, where millions have had to immigrate, leaving behind their families, risking their lives across borders, and finally suffering the most brutal capitalist exploitation, institutional racism, police brutality, etc. In the case of Ecuador, Mr. Oppenheimer should know that a quarter of the total population has had to immigrate. Let us talk about these human costs. The influence of American propaganda was hard to avoid back then. Hey, I can imagine. Monroe Doctrine is a bitch and a half. However, real facts and figures do not lie. And on the 50th anniversary of the revolution, we need to remind ourselves again what these facts and figures are. Life expectancy at the time of birth in Cuba today, according to the figures of the 2005 Human Development Report of the UN, is 77.7 years, 62 in 1959. Almost the same as in the US, 77.9. Much higher than neighboring Haiti, a free capitalist country, Mr. Oppenheimer, where it's only 59.5, and substantially higher than Brazil, 71.7. The adult literacy rate in Cuba is 99.8%, while in Brazil it's barely 88.6%. And it is also higher than Oppenheimer's favorite countries of Chile, 95.7, and Costa Rica, 94.9. In reality, according to the same United Nations reports, Cuba has the fourth highest human development index in Latin America, above Costa Rica. If we look at the figures for infant mortality, in deaths per every 1,000 born alive, according to the 2008 CIA World Factbook, that cannot be suspected of espousing communist propaganda, the situation in Cuba, 5.93 today against 78.8 in 1959, is much better than even in the US, 6.3, Chile, 7.9, Costa Rica, 9.01, Mr. Oppenheimer, and then in Brazil, 26.67, not to speak of Haiti, where the rate is 62.33 deaths per 1,000 live births. These figures should not surprise us, since according to the most recent World Bank figures, another source free of any communist influence, Cuba is the second highest country in the world for a number of doctors per 1,000 inhabitants, 5.91, while the US has only 2.3, Brazil 2.06, Chile 1.09, Costa Rica 1.32, and Haiti barely 0.25. But if we were to accept the argument that the revolution was not worth it, what is the Cuba that Mr. Oppenheimer defends? In 1958, Batista's Cuba was the brothel of the US. A quarter of the population was illiterate, and the percentage of children in school was lower than the 1920s. In 1954, only 50% of houses in the cities and 1% of those in the countryside had a bathroom. At the same time, in Havana, there were more Cadillacs than any other city in the world. Less than 330,000 landowners controlled 70% of all arable land, while 78.5% of landowners occupied only 15% of the total. Around 20% of the active population was condemned to chronic unemployment, while another 20% of agricultural laborers worked 4 months a year in the zafra, sugarcane crop, and starved in miserable conditions for the rest of the year. Cuba's dependency on U.S. imperialism was absolute. Cuba bought in the U.S. not only cars and machines, chemical products, paper and clothes, but also rice, beans, garlic and onions, fat, meat, and cotton. Ice creams were bought from Miami, bread from Atlanta, and even luxury meals from Paris, explained Eduardo Galliano, in his classic The Open Veins of Latin America. 13 U.S.-owned Ingenios, sugar mills, controlled more than 47% of the total crop. The wealth under the ground, nickel, iron, copper, manganese, chrome, tungsten, was part of the U.S.'s strategic reserves, whose companies exploited these minerals according to the varied needs of the Army of the Industry of the North. In 1958, there were, in Cuba, more registered prostitutes than mine workers. Despite the lies of Mr. Oppenheimer and co., had it not been for the revolution and the abolition of private profit motive, Cuba would be today a poor and backward country in which the majority of the population would be living in poverty, facing unemployment, illiteracy, and dying of curable diseases, like the people of neighboring Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This is why revolutionary Marxists celebrate the Cuban Revolution and unconditionally defend its conquests. Let me get a drink. The character of the revolution. The revolution that won 50 years ago in Cuba had an advanced democratic program of national liberation and agrarian reform with a strong social content, but which did not raise the issue of the abolition of capitalism in order to carry out these tasks. Anyone who reads the speeches of the leaders of the revolution in those initial months of euphoria, the decrees they emitted, the measures that were taken, can easily realize that socialism was not on the agenda, even though it is also true that there were some in the revolutionary leadership who already then considered themselves socialists or communists. So these people from other countries aren't depressed by their government, and the fact that they are populated to a point their resources can't provide them a good life, but because of America? Yeah, it seems like it. The composition of the first government after the fall of Batista illustrates this graphically. President Urrutia, a judge with no revolutionary background, was politically a conservative and an open anti-communist. I think that sounds about right. Yeah. Capitalism and communism, internationalism and state-based nationalism and patriotism, all of these ideas revolve around each other. Capitalism is just a globe-spanning ideology. Kind of the same thing with communism. They don't work. No system works in isolation. That's just all of human society as it has always been, you know? The world is connected. Everybody is connected. All life is connected through, like, the environment and shit like that. Even gravity itself is effective pretty much towards the ends of the universe, you know? There is no world in which there is, like, an isolated incident. Under Bolsonaro's rule, instead of refining the oil, he sold it raw to the U.S. just to be sold back twice for the price for the refinery. That sounds about right, Graham. Yeah. I think that's probably what's going to be happening in Venezuela soon, Graham, is that they're going to be pulling the oil out, and then it's going to have it be sold back to them. Prime Minister Miro Cardona, a lawyer, was a conservative bourgeois with no revolutionary past record. There were also bourgeois conservatives with no revolutionary track record, such as the Minister of Finance, Lopez Fresquet, and the Minister of State, Agremont. In his memoirs, Cuban Revolutionary Government First Steps, the then Minister of the Presidency at the time, Louis M. Bush, nice, describes the situation clearly. With these characteristics, there is no doubt that in the U.S. and amongst the big economic groups there was a climate of relative confidence, and that the comrades who had proclaimed the need for a deep revolution had certain reservations, some of which would persist for months or years amongst some of us. However, in reality, it was not possible to implement such an advanced national democratic program without clashing head-on with the interests of the U.S., which controlled the country's economy, and with those of that tightly knit alliance of landlords and bourgeois. That was imperialism's local lackeys. The development of the Cuban Revolution between 1959 and 1962 is a brilliant confirmation of the theory of the permanent revolution that Trotsky had formulated on the basis of experience of the Russian Revolution. People misunderstand resources, how they work, is why countries fall apart. Capitalism monetized retrieving resources and providing them a resource they could use to trade for resources they need. Yeah, I agree. Capitalism monetized retrieving resources and providing them a resource they can use to trade for resources they need. I agree with that, and how they work is why countries misunderstand resources. Yeah, I agree. There is capitalism, yeah, I agree, is like an international system. So it's never as efficient to pull resources out and then manufacturing in your own economy and then give it to your own people. Circling in that way, that like economic style, is not efficient or profitable or in the interest of the people who lord over all of society and in every nation state across the planet. What is more in the interest of the ruling class is to have like a population somewhere in some nation state, pull resources out, and then trade that. I'm so sorry. And then trade that to a different nation state that is manufacturing things, and then have like the bourgeois that rule over all of the world in a different state. It's just more profitable, more efficient for the ruling class to break up the working class in that way. I completely agree with what you're saying, Stalking. Yeah. People definitely do misunderstand resources, I agree. In that work, which remains very relevant to this day, Trotsky explains how, in the epoch of imperialist domination, the weak capitalist class in backward capitalist countries is unable to solve the problems of the national democratic revolution, agrarian reform, and liberation from imperialism. With regard to countries with a belated bourgeois development, especially the colonial and semi-colonial countries, the theory of the permanent revolution signifies that the complete and genuine solution of their tasks of achieving democracy and national emancipation is conceivable only through the dictatorship of the proletariat as the leader of the subjugated nation, above all, of its peasant masses. The attempt to do precisely the opposite, to carry out the agrarian reform and to achieve national sovereignty on the basis of an alliance with the progressive, anti-Batista, bourgeois, and without breaking with capitalism, proved to be completely impossible. Gradually, as the revolution took practical measures, particularly in relation to the agrarian reform, the bourgeois elements started to break away and join the counter-revolutionary camp. Already on February 16, 1959, Fidel replaced Miro Cardona as prime minister. But it was the passing of the first agrarian reform law in the May of that year that precipitated the open break with the more bourgeois elements. On June 11th, 4 ministers were replaced, including the agricultural minister who had opposed the agrarian reform law. On July 18th, President Urrutia resigned. In October of that year, already in a climate of counter-revolutionary provocations and armed attacks, Commander Hubert Matos, in charge of Camagüey, betrayed the revolution. As the bourgeois elements were breaking away, support for the revolution amongst the masses of workers and peasants increased and became even stronger. The implementation of the agrarian reform and the lowering of rents, the lowering of electricity and telephone tariffs were tangible conquests that the people were prepared to defend and fight for. In March, on the initiative of the Workers' Circle in San Antonio de los Baños, the first armed militias of workers, students and peasants, professionals and housewives were formed, which later on spread throughout the country. In a succession of strikes and counter-strikes, provocations by the Cuban capitalists and mainly the U.S. imperialism, to which the revolutionary government responded sharply, the revolution acquired an increasingly radical character. During 1960, the nationalization of foreign companies and foreign banks was decreed, so that by the time when Fidel declared the socialist character of the revolution, on April 17, 1961, on the eve of the attempted invasion at Playa Girón, Bay of Pigs, capitalism had been, to all effects, snuffed out in Cuba. Those events and the breathtaking speed of the Cuban Revolution in those first years contain an important lesson. The fundamental problems which affect the masses of workers and peasants in backward capitalist countries cannot be resolved, nor genuine liberation from the yoke of imperialism be achieved without breaking with the regime of capitalist private property. Only the expropriation of the interests and properties of the imperialists, the landlords, and the local capitalist class can guarantee the conditions in which to start to solve the pending national democratic tasks. Hello, Ninja. Hello, Rafka. Yeah, slave labor is a problem, but we can't force countries to stop, outside of complete and total control. So what is worse, slavery or imperialism? Oh, God, Stalking. Oh, God. Ugh. I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't think that those are the two options on the table. That's rough. That's a rough offer. That's a rough ultimatum, man. We first have to ask ourselves who's offering that deal, slavery or imperialism, and then we have to find a body of people willing to go along with that. They spreaded money to all of us, of course. We will take it, but if we were just nice and not hostile, we would be in the billions by the us. Huh? Check this out. I just drank some water. This may sound bold, but religion is one of the most efficient kind of propaganda to this day. It is still going, huh, Graham? It is Easter. Happy Easter, by the way, everybody. I hope you've done some Hail Marys. I'm an atheist, by the way. It isn't an offer, it is what is happening. Okay, so regardless of if we're picking slavery or imperialism, it's not up to us. So it's not like a philosophical debate. So that's not on the table. So that means it is imposed, and the only thing to do is resist. So slavery or imperialism is just not a question that's not on the table. So yeah, I think I agree with that second comment. The Bible was modified so many times I lost count. That's what makes it so genuine. That's what makes it a fun social experiment. The first decade, debates and conflicts. The Cuban Revolution took place at the peak of the Cold War. By breaking with capitalism, the Cuban leadership was inexorably propelled in the direction of the USSR. But this process was not free of conflicts and difficulties. The USSR in '59 was far from being the revolutionary country that Lenin and Trotsky had led between 1917 and 1924. The usurpation of power by the Stalinist bureaucracy had profoundly changed the character of the regime. An authoritarian dictatorship had replaced the Soviet democracy of the early years. Even though the state property of the means of the production and the planning of the economy remained, and had allowed the USSR to make enormous leaps forward, the bureaucracy had adopted a profoundly conservative and counter-revolutionary outlook. The foreign policy of the Stalinist bureaucracy was based on so-called peaceful coexistence, in opposition to the revolutionary internationalism of Lenin and Trotsky's Soviet Russia. In Cuba, Stalinism had already had a disastrous impact on the policy of the Cuban Communist Party, later on to be renamed the People's Socialist Party, to the point that the party participated in the Batista government of 1940 and 44, having 2 ministers. For many Cuban revolutionaries in 1955, the PSP was not considered a genuinely revolutionary organization. The leaders of the PSP found themselves on many occasions to the right of Fidel when he was carrying out the nationalizations of 1959 to 61. Despite that, the powerful attraction of the USSR for a small nation which had just freed itself from the yoke of major imperialist power only 90 miles away from its shores was very strong. But we should not forget that the leaders of the Cuban Revolution did not emerge from Stalinism, but had their own basis of support. They had carried out their own revolution and did not depend completely on the USSR. During the first years of the revolution, the relationship with the USSR was full of contradictions and conflicts, including purges against the Stalinists within the unified revolutionary organizations, like the two purges against Escalante in 1962 and 67 to 68. It was perhaps Che who most acutely expressed these contradictions. To him, the idea of peaceful coexistence was, and rightly so, a counter-revolutionary idea. Clearly, Fidel and Che thought of the Cuban Revolution as part of the Latin American Revolution, and, more widely, as part of the struggle of the colonial peoples against imperialism. This conception clashed head-on with the foreign policy of the Soviet bureaucracy, and led to a conflict in many communist parties on the continent. The mistake of Che was to try to take the methods of the guerrilla foco, which had been successful in Cuba because of the particular set of circumstances, and try to generalize them as valid to all countries and all circumstances. Rejection of Stalinism was very strong among a generation of revolutionaries who had come to Marxism through their own experiences in the Cuban Revolution. The team of the philosophy department at Havana University, for instance, rejected the Soviet manuals of Marxism-Leninism and worked out their own curriculum based on the study of the original texts of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and the classical philosophers to study Marxism. The same group of revolutionaries, most of them very young, started the publication of the Pensamiento Critico, Critical Thought magazine, where they debated openly and in a critical manner different versions of Marxism, trying to break with the ossified, distorted, and anti-Marxist version they were getting from the Union. In the field of arts, culture, and cinema, there were sharp public polemics against the attempt of the Stalinists to impose Soviet realism and censorship of anything that deviated from it. Guevara defended the planning of the economy and the need to industrialize the economy against the Stalinists who argued for the use of market mechanisms and material incentives in the running of the economy. However, this period came to an end at the beginning of the 1970s. The failure in 1967 of the attempt by Che to spread the revolution to the continent marked the isolation of the Cuban Revolution. The failure of the 10 million ton sugarcane crop of 1970, which led to the dislocation of the country's economy, marked the complete economic dependence of Cuba on the USSR, which was sealed with the entry into the CAIM, Economic Mutual Aid Council, in 1972. This dependence of the Cuban Revolution on the Stalinist USSR had important negative consequences in all fields. The discussion of ideas was curtailed. Both the philosophy department and the Pensamiento Critico were closed down. In the field of arts and culture, there was repression and censorship, the dreadful Gris, 5 Gray Years, in foreign policy, and in economic policy, etc. Alright, let me get a drink. What you got for me? Beep, 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 beep. I mean that outside of imperialism, whether it is communist imperialism with slavery, China, technology has advanced to where government takeovers aren't possible without assistance. Let me read that again. I mean that outside of imperialism. Whether it is communist imperialism with slavery, China, technology has advanced to where government takeovers aren't possible without assistance. Link for the article. Aren't possible without assistance. Let me think on that. I have to kind of think about what that means. Cuba resists the fall of the USSR. However, despite this process of Stalinization, the Cuban Revolution was not dead, and her vitality and roots amongst the masses came back to the surface at the end of the 1980s with the collapse of the USSR. For nearly 2 decades, the Cuban economy, blockaded by the US, had become completely linked to that of the USSR and the Eastern European countries. It could even be discussed whether this integration did not take place in a distorted manner, stalling the development of an industrial base in Cuba, something which Che had defended. What is clear is that the impact of the collapse of Stalinism was catastrophic from the economic point of view. The USSR used to buy Cuban sugar at prices higher than those of the world market, and sold Cuba all sorts of products, from machinery and spare parts to food and fuel, at prices below those of the world market, as well as offering loans with very favorable conditions, which then Cuba could use to buy products on the world market. 63% of Cuba's imports of food came from the USSR, as well as 80% of imports of machinery. 80% of Cuba's trade took place with the USSR and the Eastern European bloc. All of this vanished overnight. Between 1989 and 1992, the import capacity of the Cuban economy fell by 70%. Not only was Cuba deprived of trade on extremely favorable terms, but her access to finance in order to purchase products on the world market was cut off. This led to the collapse of Cuban GDP by 2.9% in the 90s, in 1990, 10% in 1991, 11.62% in 92, and a further 14.9% in 93. Between 89 and 93, the accumulated fall of GDP was 35%, comparable to the 29 crash in the US. The fall in exports was 79%, the fall in imports 75%, and the fall in gross investment was 61%. Oof. Oof, dude. Oof. These economic figures give us only a superficial idea of the massive human cost of the collapse of the economy. Problems of lack of food, lack of vitamins, almost complete lack of transport, lack of fuel for power generation with the accompanying blackouts, etc. To all this, we must add the political impact, the overwhelming ideological campaign of the ruling class worldwide to the effect that socialism had failed. The collapse of a system which had been a point of reference for Cuba for 20 years, and of which no serious criticism had been made. And yet, despite everything, Cuba survived, what became known as the Special Period in peacetime. In the USSR, the leadership of the misnamed Communist Party led and organized the restoration of capitalism, with the aim of becoming capitalists themselves through the theft, looting, and plundering of state property. In Cuba, the revolution resisted and rejected the restoration of capitalism despite all the hardship. It was time in which the spirit of struggle of the Cuban Revolution was reborn. We saw the will of the people who had conquered freedom not to be enslaved again. Despite the enormous difficulties and suffering, the Cuban Revolution overcame that period and did it for political reasons. The USA knew about the inflation of their currency because that was now tripled our currency now, and it's stayed stable till now, making their money nothing, all those debts for nothing. Greedy. It do be like that. Let me get another drink. We love a good chapter, don't we? We love a good section. The Cuban economy and the world market. At the same time, a series of measures were introduced, already since 1988, which meant important concessions to capitalism, on the need to participate in the world market. These could not be avoided, but at the same time, they became the source of contradictions and dangers for the planned economy in Cuba. Among these measures was the opening to foreign investment, the promotion of tourism as the source of hard currency, with all the contradictions it brings, the legalization of the dollar, the decentralization of foreign trade, the opening of free agricultural markets, and the setting up of small peasant cooperatives, the controlled legislation of self-employment and some small business, etc. These measures, determined by the immediate need to survive, entailed big dangers. The participation of Cuba in the world market was taking place on extremely unequal terms. The Cuban economy was based mainly on raw materials and services and needed to import all sorts of manufactured goods. The economic measures that were taken at the time, even if had been in the context of a strong planned economy able to produce machinery with a strong industrial sector able to compete in the world market, involved penetration from the world market. This was 100 times more so in the case of the weak and underdeveloped Cuban economy. The changes that were being introduced threatened to unleash an unstoppable movement towards capitalism. However, since 2003, the Cuban government made a turn towards re-centralization of the economy. The circulation of the dollar was banned, though this was replaced by the convertible peso, CUC, which is firmly under the control of the state. Foreign trade was again brought under central control, concessions to self-employed and small businesses were limited, and foreign investment and joint ventures were also limited. The decisive factor is the weakness of the Cuban economy, which is currently based on income from tourism, the export of services, mainly Cuban doctors in Venezuela and other countries, and the export of nickel. The role of industry in the Cuban economy is extremely weak and mainly oriented to service the tourist sector. All of this generated contradictions and unevenness in Cuban society. The dependency on tourism means, on the one hand, that the large part of the limited agricultural production has to be channeled towards this sector to the detriment of the needs of the Cuban population in general. On the other hand, all those who are in contact with the tourist industry have access to convertible pesos, CUC, with which to buy products to supplement their monthly budget. What a taxi driver, a hotel doorman, or someone renting a room out can get in one day might be as much as the monthly wage of a building worker or a teacher or a doctor. This reduces the value of wages, generates a deficit of doctors and teachers, and creates a situation in which a large section of the population lives through lucharla. That is, using semi-legal or openly illegal methods to get income, stealing from work, the theft of public resources, legal or illegal self-employment, etc. The most dangerous aspect of these phenomena is that they promote the idea of an individual solution to problems as opposed to a collective one. The export of medical services, which according to some figures represents already 50% of the total value of exports of goods and services, almost double the amount of income from tourism, means that if there are some 25,000 Cuban doctors abroad, this has a negative impact on healthcare in Cuba, one of the most important conquests of the revolution. The remittances of Cubans abroad, which are worth $1.1 million, are also a source of further contradictions, since they do not reach all the sections of the population equally, thus increasing social inequality and contributing to reduce the status of wages as a main source of income. Finally, exports of nickel are subject to the volatility of the market for minerals in the current crisis of capitalism. The average price of nickel in 2008 was 41% below that of 2007, and 80% down from its peak in 2007. At the same time, the Cuban economy is heavily dependent on these sources of hard currency income in order to purchase on the world market all the goods it needs, from food to buses for public transport, and in which it does not produce. The need for hard currency has been increased by the hurricanes which battered the island in 2008, causing damage worth $10 billion, 20% of the GDP, destroying crops, infrastructure, and houses. God in heaven, dude. It is looking grim. The World Revolution, the only solution to the problems of the Cuban Revolution. What's crazy to me that he's a freedom fighter and opened the safe for us all, but Haiti is still struggling for police forces and civilian takeovers. I agree, Ninja. When I was at the RCA meeting this week on Thursday, Haiti was also a big topic that went along with it. You know, you have like Cuba, which is like this isolated socialist country that will not access the world market because it will be exploited to high hell and back. And then you have Haiti, which is like an openly capitalist, like pretty much a libertarian state at this point. And they're just both in awful conditions, you know? So they are just used as battered examples of like how you can't go like too hard in one direction. So liberals just run the line of like, we need socialism, but only a little bit. And we need capitalism, but only a little bit. You know, the Caribbean is such an exploited place, you know? The World Revolution, the only solution to the problems of the Cuban Revolution. Ain't that the truth? All these economic factors only reinforce the idea that, in the last instance, the only real solution for the Cuban economy is to be found in the spreading of the revolution in other countries. This is precisely the second part of Trotsky's equation in Revolution Betrayed. The completion of the socialist revolution within national limits is unthinkable. One of the basic reasons for the crisis in bourgeois society is the fact that the productive forces created by it can no longer be reconciled with the framework of the national state. The socialist revolution begins on the national arena. It unfolds on the international arena, is completed on the world arena. Thus, the socialist revolution becomes a permanent revolution in a newer and broader sense of the word. It attains completion only in the final victory of the new society on our entire planet. The world division of labor, the dependence of Soviet industry upon foreign technology, the dependence of the productive forces of the advanced countries of Europe upon Asiatic raw materials, etc., make the construction of the independent socialist society in any single country in the world impossible. Destroying the economy was the point. Countries the size of Cuba need outside resources. Every time you have to reach out to a different country, the cost rises. Exactly, Stalking. Exactly. Exactly, brother. Exactly. It's a global system. Every country needs to act. There is no, you know, when you come up with like the nation state, it requires you to interact with other nation states. You can't have one nation without having another nation. And that means they have to interact with each other. They cannot be isolated by themselves, and that means everything falls apart. This was true in the 1930s when the Russian revolutionary put in writing the theoretical conclusions of the experience of the October Revolution. But it's even truer today, when the interpretation of the world economy has reached an extreme degree. At the same time, revolutionary conditions in the whole of Latin America are today much more advanced than they were in 1989, when Cuba became completely isolated. The development of the Venezuelan Revolution has already created a point of support for the Cuban Revolution both economically, through the exchange of doctors for oil at advantageous terms, for example, and politically. This confirms the need to spread the revolution internationally as the only way out for the Cuban Revolution. This is despite the fact that in Venezuela, capitalism has not yet been abolished, and if it is not, the Venezuelan Revolution will be defeated, which would be a severe blow to the Cuban Revolution. For this reason, the foreign policy of the Cuban Revolution must be firmly based on proletarian internationalism. The lessons of the Cuban Revolution for Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, etc. are clear. Only through the expropriation of imperialists, landlords, and capitalists is it possible to start to address and solve the most immediate needs of the masses of workers and peasants. You can't do it alone. Uh-oh, I froze the website. Give me a second. The struggle against bureaucracy and corruption. There we go. Let me get another drink. The struggle against bureaucracy and corruption. Ain't that the truth, dude? Now here's the flip side to it. You know, there's like Cuba as like the socialist nation, but there's also Cuba as the bureaucratically captured nation. However, not all the problems which the Cuban Revolution faces arise directly from her isolation or are external to her. In a very important speech which Fidel gave at the Havana University on November 17, 2005, the Cuban leader already warned that the revolution ran the risk of self-destruction and pointed at bureaucracy, corruption, and the new rich as a key problem. It is inevitable that in any society with limited resources, bureaucracy and corruption will rise. But the only way to fight against these phenomena, which are gangrene to the planned economy, is through workers' democracy, through the detailed control by the workers of the economy and the administration of the state. If the workers, in a collective way, do not feel that they are the masters and owners of the country, of the means of production, do not feel that they are involved in taking decisions, particularly the most difficult ones regarding the distribution of scarce resources, then the seeds of demoralization and skepticism are sown. As Cuban communist Frank Jose Scolar Cabarrales pointed out, the only solution for Cuba is, on the one hand, to give incentives, to deepen the mechanism of workers' control that at certain times have been put in interim solutions and to make them systematic, institutionalize them in the economy and politics of Cuba. The replacement of Fidel by Raul Castro raised great expectations of change in Cuba. A discussion on the main problems that affected the country was open to all levels. Hundreds of thousands of Cubans participated in it and reaffirmed their majority support for socialism, while at the same time they pointed out the problems that the revolution is facing and the problems that Cubans face on a daily basis. Arising from this debate, however, only limited and secondary changes were introduced, such as the liberalization of mobile phone ownership, of the sale of some electrical goods, the possibility to stay in hotels, which in reality only benefit those sections which have more direct accesses to CUCs, and therefore only increase social inequality. Further to these, measures have been taken promoting material incentives, like the elimination of maximum amount of money that can be received as productivity bonus, a measure which also increases social differentiation. I guess you know how big companies buy out most small companies until it becomes dependent on that profit. That's kind of the strat countries such as America is running with currently. Yeah, I guess so, Graham. That seems to be the case. Cuba, towards the Chinese way. Indeed. Will they take it? That's the big question, isn't it? Is Cuba going to liberalize? They've got quite the task at hand, especially with so many guns pointed at them. In the debate that has opened up in Cuba, it is clear that there is a strong tendency to emphasize solutions which are supposedly practical, administrative and related to efficiency, as opposed to political measures. The international capitalist media have speculated about whether Castro is a proponent of a Chinese way for Cuba, that is, the progressive introduction of market measures that ultimately would lead to the restoration of capitalism. Obviously, this would be a preferred option for the capitalists internationally. In official Cuban media, there is an insistence that Cuba is different from China, that conditions are different and models cannot be copied. However, at the same time, Cuban economists are proposing exactly the same kinds of market reforms which in China led to the restoration of capitalism. For instance, Omar Everleni, subdirector of the influential Center for the Study of Cuban Economy, CEEC, at the Havana University, in an interview published in the Mexican newspaper La Lloranda, speaks of the need to promote foreign investment, of the need to develop private, small, and medium-sized enterprises, the decentralization of the economic activity, and the role of the market in the economy. Talking of Vietnam as an example, Everleni points out that in a country and an economy, even if it is socialist, the market has to be an important component. We should discuss in what proportions, but I think that a quota of market is vital for the process of development in the conditions of Cuba. Vietnam has managed to introduce the market, and it is an economy with high rates of growth, with a growing welfare, and today plays a key role in the export of basic products worldwide. Hello, baked beans. The same Omar Everlenny repeats the same ideas in the recent article. The Cuban economy needs urgently a deep structural transformation emphasizing decentralization. In such a strategy, it is necessary to include the design of non-state forms of property, not only in agriculture but also in the manufacturing of service sectors. The state should keep for itself the role of regulator and concentrate its energy on the strategic sectors. The 50 years of Cuban socialism show, with some exceptions, that re-centralization and policies oriented at pushing the market away have provoked economic recessions and adverse situations. This is not the road that should be followed in the future. The state should go from having a role of general administrator to one of general regulator, without changing the socialist project that the Cubans have decided upon. There is no doubt, and time will show, that this reform of the economic system must include the role of the market, the state regulation of the forms of property and business organization. Ugh. Ugh. Bleh. Hello, Ultraman. Hi from Bulgaria. Hello. It seems clear what Everlenny is proposing, to open up manufacturing and services to private property, to reject policies which move away from the market, and that the state, far from planning the economy, simply should regulate it, even though Everlenny maintains that this would not mean a change in the socialist project. The kind of socialism he proposes is very similar to so-called market socialism with Chinese characteristics. That is, capitalism. It is not by chance that his article has been published by the Nueva Sociedad, magazine of the F. Ebert Foundation of the German Social Democracy, the friendly face of capitalist counter-revolution. Armando Nova, also from the CEEC, insists on the need to give full autonomy to companies, cooperatives of different kinds, in the agricultural sector so that they have the autonomy that they need to be able to decide on how to combine the productive factors in an efficient way, the acquiring of productive resources to have control and decide over their final product, economic profits, in summary, to make real the feeling of ownership. In a recently published and very interesting study on the current state of the Cuban economy, George Martio Sanchez, from the Center of the Study of the United States at Havana University, and Juan Triana Cordovi of the CEEC emphasized the same proposals: the recovery of agriculture, which according to them would require private foreign investment, the promotion of small and medium-sized enterprises as private companies, either cooperative or not, with the aim of generating a business fabric which would contribute to increasing the efficiency of the system as a whole, and to promote foreign investment, spreading it to new sectors and promoting it with the transformations in the legal framework. Ugh. How do communists make sense of the Venezuela breaking the deal with the U.S. and stealing the means of production? They went from the fourth richest country to starving very quickly. How do communists make sense of Venezuela breaking the deal with the U.S.? I think they make sense of breaking the deal with the U.S. because they were probably in worse conditions under the U.S. imperialism than they were under their own conditions. Like, stalking, it happens all the time. You see videos and posts online about like the worst and awful conditions of communist dictatorships, and that's not to say that they're wrong in those countries. But that is like a media angle. There is also the second point that I would say Venezuela is not communist at all in the slightest sense. I would consider Venezuela like a bureaucratic regime. I don't know. Like it's just not. I don't know. I don't, stealing the means of production, I guess, is a funny way to put that, because the Venezuelan workers do not own the means of production. The reason why Latin America has a target on its back is because it's rich soil and because there's American military bases that were built in the past. Yeah, Graham, that is true. Its proximity to America is also, as well, like, America has the Great Plains. That's all farmland. Nobody wants to be a farmer in America because farming, I mean, and this is true for all societies, farming fucking sucks. Farming has always fucking sucked. That's why feudalism came about. The manorialisms and the military-based, like, overlording society exists. Like, it came about because farming sucks, and telling people to farm for you is easier than farming yourself. Removing the military bases somehow just makes them think it gives them the right to attack also. Yeah, Graham, that's right. It is a dictatorship. The government stole the production with the promise of redistribution. Yeah, but that didn't happen. I mean, Venezuela might have been a dictatorship, but it wasn't dictated by the proletarian. It was dictated by a bureaucratic regime, a Catholic bureaucratic regime. The government stole the production with the promise of redistribution. Which government doesn't promise to redistribute shit? I don't know, man. I think there was some element of the workers, thinking that they were you know, pursuing communism, but that's just what happens. I mean, we covered Venezuela a little while ago at the RCA. I can shoot you a link if you want. It's just the fact that, like, Venezuela's government has and has not been communist in any sense of the word. They are not socialist. They don't work towards a communist project. They don't work towards a socialist project. They might claim it, but anybody can claim it. And the workers certainly don't own the means of production. Like you said, a promise of redistribution. These measures that are being proposed, taken as a whole, can be called the Chinese way, or any other name. But in practice, don't get me wrong, I'm not batting for Venezuela. Yeah. I don't know. As a communist myself, my take on Venezuela versus America is that we should empower the working class. I don't stand with nation states. I mean, as far as states that are owned by like a bureaucratic capture, you know? There are nation state projects of a liberatory nature, like Palestine, for example. But if Palestine decides that it's just going to be like a bureaucratic regime after or before the fighting stops with Israel, then I don't support it afterwards. I support the working class. But for me to support the working class in like a nation that's being attacked, it has to at first stop being bombed out. You know? These measures that are being proposed, taken as a whole, can be called the Chinese way. I don't know. I'm just a white boy in Seattle. It's not like I have any fucking control over anything. But in practice, they are the same measures that were introduced originally in China with the aim of developing the economy, which ended up with the restoration of capitalism. In the Cuban case, the adoption and furthering of these kinds of measures would not only entail the risk of leading to the restoration of capitalism, but would not even achieve any of the economic results of China. Sorry if I read your message wrong, Stalking. For some reason I take intonation very poorly. Would not even achieve any of the economic results of China, precisely because the conditions are very different. Among other things, Cuba does not have a massive reserve of cheap labor, or the capacity of the state to create infrastructures for the export industry. Furthermore, the world economic recession has destroyed the export markets from which China benefited originally. The introduction of some of these measures has already started, particularly in relation to agriculture, the decentralization of decision-making in the economy, and the link between wages and productivity. Oof. So, I guess, I don't know, we'll make predictions on what's going to happen to Cuba in the discussion. Self-management. As part of this debate, I'm glad, I'm definitely happy people are engaging. That's more than I could ask for anything. It is a discussion, yeah. As part of this debate on the renewal of Cuban socialism, some have proposed the idea of self-management as a way forward. Pedro Campos and others have signed a document in which they raise 13 programmatic measures as part of the debate towards the sixth Party Congress that will take place later on this year. Without doubt, the document raises a number of interesting proposals, including the formation of workers' councils in all workplaces. It is clear that Pedro Campos is deeply worried about the problems the Cuban economy is facing and is trying to find solutions which imply the full participation of the workers in the management of the economy and the decision-making process at all levels. On this, we agree. However, we think that the main idea of the document is not only wrong, but also very dangerous. Basically, it proposes that in small and medium-sized enterprises, the property over the means of production would be given directly to the workers in full, either through sale, paid up front, or on credit, or transferred by the state, and that the companies of national or strategic interest would be co-managed between the state and the workers' collectives, where ownership and administration could or could not be shared by the relevant state body, handed over partially or completely as a lease or in usufruct to the workers. In all of these companies, the form of payment of wages would be replaced by the equitable sharing out of part of the profit. That's kind of the crux of communism, though, isn't it? In order to redistribute, someone has to take the means of the resources to begin with. Yeah, but that would be the workers. Which would be everybody else. Because at the current moment, the bourgeois reign and control all of the means of production and the resources. The workers do not. Yeah, you got it. The expropriation and such. This means that ownership of companies would be handed over to the workers who work in them, and they, instead of receiving wages, would share out any profits. This system, which is being proposed, is very similar to the socialist self-management which was implemented in Yugoslavia and which led to the economic collapse of that country and later on in its breakup. This type of ownership and sharing out of profits inevitably generates an outlook which is not a collective one, but rather individual of each group of workers in each company. If there were, for instance, 2 transport companies in the same city, the workers in each of them would be pushed to compete with workers in the other in order to get higher profits to share out. This is exactly what happened in Yugoslavia. Furthermore, this system of individual material incentives in each company leaves to one side the problem of how to manage public services. That is, companies which do not necessarily generate profits, but which deliver a useful service to society. For instance, public transportation, healthcare, education. What profits would companies in these sectors generate for workers to share out? Self-management would also create extreme inequality between workers in different sectors of the economy with different profit rates. For instance, if the price of nickel on the world market collapses dramatically, the workers in this sector would have to share out losses, while the workers in the biotechnology sector, for instance, would have substantial profits to share. The sharing out of profits in this case would not depend at all on the quality and intensity of labor of these groups of workers, but on factors completely alien to them. This would generate an exodus of workers from the less profitable or even loss-making sectors of the economy, healthcare, education, public transport, or nickel, for instance, to those which are more profitable, tourism, biotechnology, thus replicating the same problems that we face now, in which these measures were supposed to address. Another VTuber like the rest of them. This is why you kinda should understand. And I'm also hating on you for no reason. Hello, Jervis. What's up? So if I work in a steel plant, I get a portion of the profit of the company. Companies grow with debt, though, not profit. So that's the thing, stalking. We're actually talking about it right now. We're actually talking about that instance right now. So, communism and socialism, destroy companies. Under socialism and under communism, there is no such thing as a company. There's no such thing as profits. None of that stuff exists. Good night, Graham. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the information. Sorry it's a little later, I know. I just got off of work at 8 o'clock. The fact that workers' wages would be linked to profits would reproduce all the problems that cooperatives face in a capitalist economy. The workers would be forced to exploit themselves further in order to get enough profits to share out, or in order to get more profits than the workers in other companies they compete with through longer hours, higher intensity of labor, leaving to one side health and safety considerations, etc. We understand that in the system proposed by Compost, there would be competition, since that he says that the state monopoly controls in the domestic market, which currently exists, would have to disappear and give way to commercial activity. In reality, self-management with a market inevitably leads to capitalism, and it is not very different from the proposals of those who are pushing for market measures, material incentives, and the privatization of small and medium-sized enterprises, which we have analyzed earlier. Far from liberating the workers, this program would turn them into capitalists. Camilla Harnecker has criticized both those who defend market mechanisms to stimulate production and those who, like Pedro Campos, propose that the workers should be the direct owners of the companies in which they work. In an interesting article published in Temas magazine, Pinheiro argues that the participation of the workers in the management of the companies will not only contribute to their full development, but also be an important source of motivation. In this brilliant analysis of the Stalinist degeneration of the USSR, Leon Trotsky insisted that the planned economy needs workers' democracy as much as the human body needs oxygen. The workers should be and should really feel themselves as owners of the means of production and the state, and participate directly in an efficient manner in running of the economy and the administration of public affairs. But the program which more faithfully reflects these needs is the program of workers' democracy and democratic planning of the means of production, the program of Lenin and Trotsky. What do I even work as? I'm a cashier at a Whole Foods. Ideological rearming of the Cuban Revolution. In Cuba, there is also a current which is looking for a left-wing solution to the problems the revolution is facing. During the Havana Book Fair in 2008, in a forum for debates and discussion, the Cuban writer Desiderio Navarro expressed himself in the following way. Recent history has proven that socialism without criticism and without collective participation is doomed to end up in the worst of capitalisms. And he added that he was arguing for both the perestroika-type experiments as well as the games of Chinese shadows. The experience of the Bolshevik Workshop, a series of meetings and debates about the history of the USSR and Cuba from a social critical point of view, which ended in a meeting of more than 500 youth in commemoration of the Russian Revolution in 2007, is an indication of the ferment of discussion and ideas which exists. That meeting, called by rank and file means and which openly claimed the revolutionary character of Marxism and suppressed inheritance of the October Revolution, including that of Trotsky, was also proof that it is possible to interest the Cuban youth in the defense of the revolution if one adopts a clearly anti-capitalist standpoint. This debate is mainly concentrated amongst intellectuals and university youth, and it is not free from difficulties. Within the state apparatus, there are Stalinists or pro-capitalist sections that feel threatened by this debate and try to prevent it from taking place. The discussion of ideas is crucial, and the ideological rearming of the Cuban Revolution is necessary for it to be strengthened. However, not all ideas are equal. There are those who defend reformist ideas, who say that it is possible to have socialism, but with the market, and that what is needed is more democracy, when what they really advocate for is bourgeois democracy. Revolutionary Marxists in this debate advance two main ideas. For us, the defense of the Cuban Revolution can only be successful if it is based on international socialism and genuine workers' democracy. Without any doubt, the Cuban Revolution and its 50th anniversary is at a crossroads. It is faced with economic and political difficulties subject to a brutal imperialist blockade, facing the more treacherous attacks of those sections of the world capitalism which want an opening as a way to restore capitalism. It is also threatened by those within the island who defend a Chinese way, which in fact leads to capitalism, and there are those who defend the status quo of the bureaucracy, which at the end of the day would lead to the collapse of the revolution. The international context is favorable to the revolution from the point of view of the class struggle. The revolution is spreading throughout Latin America. The crisis of capitalism, which will also lead to the crisis of the Chinese model, discredits the capitalist system in the eyes of millions of workers around the world, and in Cuba itself, to those who would have some illusions in it. In this situation, the enormous political and social reservoir of support the revolution has, if linked to the defense of proletarian internationalism and workers' democracy, could become a powerful factor in the struggle to defend and spread the conquests of the planned economy and to open a socialist future in Latin America and the world. Today more than ever, long live the Cuban Revolution, long live the world socialist revolution. Fuck, that was such a long-ass read. So, a couple of core lessons here in this paper. And it is, like, the two big reasons, especially at the end there, that were talked about were, like, the two developing reasons on Cuba, especially in the modern era, are effectively as such. And it is one, the first point is that a revolution that happens in one nation by itself is doomed to fail. If you have a communist revolution that is isolated in itself, much like the USSR, much like Cuba is going on here, much like Venezuela, it's just doomed to fail. Bureaucracy and such will take over, and the workers will simply just get petered out and die, you know? It has to be an international project because capitalism is international. It is a global system. There is no such thing as, like, capitalism in one country. That doesn't even make sense. And then there is also, of course, the second part of this, which is, what was it? I had, like, two parts to this. Which I guess is that, like, the first part is that, like, internationalism, Cuba has to have a more internationalist point of view. And that second point is that if the workers aren't in control of the society, if it is a bureaucratic state function, even if it even if it isn't capitalist, if it's a Bonapartist proletarian state, then that's just not socialism. That's not the communist project because it's not in pursuit of a classless, stateless, moneyless society. The state takes over as the class. So it's just not socialism. Companies are what created the world we live in, though. They progress humanity at a rate we hadn't seen before because of incentive to innovate. At one point, Stalking, I agree with that at one point. Historically, capitalism has definitely been a progressive force. I mean, fuck, dude, it gave us, like, medicine. It gave us technology. It gave us computers. You're absolutely right about that. You know, it put us on the fucking moon, for God's sakes. Like, God fucking bless. But it has also created new immense ways of suffering. And isolation. I don't think it's that tough, Stalking, to go outside and find, like, to go outside in any city and find just, like, a bunch of people dying under a bridge. I don't think you can go into any city anymore without seeing somebody just dying under a bridge. You know? That is also all because of companies. That is also all because of capitalism. Like, I agree that capitalism and its aforementioned, like, evil technologies have brought about extremely progressive historical change. The bourgeois revolutions of, like, Napoleon were extremely progressive. I agree. But why should we stop? Why should we stop there? You know? I mean, if people are dying on the street, you know, I mean, people are dying on the street. I mean, you can't look at you can't look at the news nowadays without hearing like a missile from Israel is being launched into Palestine. Without finding out that like the modern US state apparatus is starting another war, is stealing presidents from other nations out of their fucking chairs. You know? The imperialist realm of the world the capitalist imperialist realm of the world we live in today is having a crisis, and it's only going to get worse. Wages have been stagnating. You know, my rent is basically like 3/4 of my paycheck. Who can afford to pay rent nowadays? You know, more and more people, especially here in America, more and more people have to live at home. Gas prices are through the fucking roof. You know, these are all tangibilities. So why should we stop at the most historically progressive force? Why can't we just go further? You know, why do we have to keep doing capitalism? Hello, definitely. Can we talk about when I'm going to give me my library to? What is a library to? Where is my library? What is a what are you talking about? Do. So I guess that's like, those are like the two central parts of like the Cuban Revolution, is that one, a revolution isolated in itself is doomed to failure. You know, it has to be an international program because capitalism is an international system. Oh, Library of Ruina 2? Oh, I don't know. I didn't really like Library of Ruina 1. I didn't know there was a second one. What's it called? Is it on Steam? I don't see it. And then the second lesson is, of course, if your revolution isn't sufficiently democratic, like a workers' dictatorship democracy, you know, then it is a bureaucratic problem. There's a problem with bureaucracy, as you stated, though. They're taking your money and pocketing it instead of using it to bolster our very robust socialist systems. They're taking the money and pocketing instead of bolstering our very robust socialist systems. Yeah, I agree. Stalking. It is because the workers' ideological leadership is not oriented towards communism. It's oriented towards proletarian. It's oriented towards like a proletarian dictatorship without the desire to move towards communism. Not really a proletarian dictatorship, but like for one reason or another, the workers' democracy peters out. You know, if the workers' democracy simply does not take hold for it could be any number of millions of reasons. There's a million historical reasons out there why it just doesn't take. You know, or usually it's because it was never started. You know, then it just won't work. I'm confused about the tags in bio. How am I a wizard and a space wanderer? I'm a space wizard, Crystal. I don't have my keys set up, but I have a wizard hat and a space outfit. There are no two, I just mean the second time. Oh, the second time I'm gonna play it? Maybe I'll play it again, definitely. Have I played Ultra Kill? I haven't played Ultra Kill. I'm thinking about playing Ultra Kill this week, though. Define Space Wizard. I'm an astronaut who... My lore is that I'm an astronaut who went to the Andromeda Galaxy, and I got stuck there for thousands of years, and then I came back, and now I can cast spells. Hello, Kaname. What's up? Also, I wouldn't call them robust socialist systems. I don't think there's any place on planet Earth that has a robust socialist system. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Not that I would know of. Not that I would know of at all, you know? Also, I would... Maybe this is just me. I would also stop focusing on things like calling specific words. I mean, the definitions are important, don't get me wrong, but I would focus more on, like, if you are interested in this stuff, I would focus on more directly on, is this location that I'm looking at? It doesn't matter if it's the USA, Cuba, Venezuela, the UK, or like the grocery store down the street. Do the workers have democracy over this establishment? Do the workers have a democracy over what is happening here? And if they don't, then the world is in a worse location. Because the world is better off with the workers' democracy. That is effectively the goal. Do 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 do. Where else am I live? I'm live on YouTube. Alright, we're actually an hour in. I thought the discussion... our discussion probably isn't going to happen at the end here. I think I pretty much summed it up pretty well. If anybody has any more questions, we'll continue talking about it, of course, but... I think this is pretty good. The discussions mostly happened during the document, which was not that bad either. Kind of interrupting the flow is not a bad idea sometimes, especially in this kind of environment. But I think I will play some video games for the rest of the night. Now, I don't really know. I was going to play Cuba in Victoria 3. But I think I don't want to hop into TF2. We've been playing a lot of TF2. I think I want to continue my Borderlands run. Maybe I will play a Victoria Cuba run. No, because I'll be starting a new run every week. So I'll continue with my Borderlands 4 run. I know it's kind of a big-ass jump, but for the rest of the stream. And then I can finally finish my cold dinner. Which I have chicken strips, celery, and carrots, and my chicken's gone cold. Not as if I couldn't just walk over to my microwave and use it. But, you know. Alright, this could take a while to start up. Oh. Oh. Alright, gamers. Let's shoot our little guns. Okay. Celery! I love celery. Yummy. So, what happened was... Oh. Oh my god, celery is so good. What happened was, I made my lunch for today. It was chicken strips. Did my game just crash? No way. Oh, okay. I got scared. I made lunch today for work. And it was chicken strips, celery, and carrot sticks with blue cheese dip. And I forgot it at home, because I'm smart. And so I ate lunch at work, and now I'm eating my lunch that I made for work. Maybe I should have saved it for tomorrow. Damn. I'll make something else. Yum! Oh god! Celery is so tasty, dude. I remember when I was homeless, I was fucking craving produce, dude. And when I first moved into my apartment and I went to the food bank, they gave me like a bag of celery and I ate the whole thing in like a meal. It was so good. Interesting discussion. Appreciate the different perspective. Not sure we were ready for the post-currency world, and we can't even get past what I would consider the first hurdle. Race. Ah, yeah. Stalking, I see what you're saying. No, yeah, man. Well, thank you for asking all those questions, dude. I hope I can do this some more. This is kind of new for me. I was reading the political discussion. And I'd definitely love to keep doing it more. You're American, your crops are more expensive than meat? Yeah, Crystal, you're so right about that. That's so true. Cuba? You know, Cuba is always like an interesting topic, but for some reason, for the life of me, I mean, I read that article like 4 times throughout the week, trying to get it in my head so I could write like a lead off on it, but it just would not stick in my head. Celery. Carrots are not nearly as delicious as celery. Yum. No! I dropped my carrot in my blue cheese. Fuck. Yummy. Okay. Continue. I'm gonna use my little gun. I'm gonna shoot the enemy gamers. Hello, Deco. No, yeah. But I also always appreciate a different perspective on stuff, because sometimes I feel like my own perspective is so limited. Who the fuck am I? What is this? Was I doing this? I'm gonna get this deadbolt. I was doing this. I just never picked it up. Oh my god. It's so quiet. I leveled up. Did I get the shit and then leave and I just never picked up the deadbolt? I'm bad. I'm bad. I'm bad to the bone. I can't go on, baby doll. Heavenly 7 might be better for me, to be honest with you. Bonus fire damage is funny. Nope, I just... more action skill cooldowns is kind of what I'm gaming for right now. Behold, my dice! Go, my dice! Go, my totems! Kill them with your weapons!
This time, I think I'll make all my shots. If I could do it all again, feels like I would ask.
Am I gonna track the Easter Bunny without carrots? That's so true.
Lucky shot!
Whoa! Uh-oh. The game sounds so weird. Is it my headphones? Yeah, okay. Ugh. The deadbolt. Where is this deadbolt? It's deadbolt. Gotcha. The audio is being buggy as fuck right now. Is there anything up here that I should know about? No? I guess not. We did get the deadbolt. Look at us. Look at us, look at us, look at us go. Is that the quest? Oh, that's Meat is Murder. Meat is Murder is gonna take me across the planet. But I guess I should do it, huh? I guess it wouldn't hurt. And I don't know how to get into the auger mine, so... Where'd my... Oh! I was like, where'd my celery go? I got scared. I got scared. No! I dropped blue cheese on my jacket. In my underwear. I have to lick my own crotch to get the cheese. Fuck. Fuck. Hang on. I gotta use a vegetable. No! I'm dropping it everywhere. Num num num. Okay. Give me a hot second. Alright. Let's go. How do I do this? Drive over there? Damn. No teleport, huh? They hate me.
Going in for a bot.
You know, I never remember Borderlands being such a quiet game.
We've got hope. What do you jerks have?
Load him up and let him flip. You're charmed, I'm sure.
What's all this fellow? Let's fucking go. Get it out of here, dude. Go, 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 go.
If you got any more
Damn,
like
chill.
this, you'll be off with you then. I don't mind.
Give me a hot second. So true. Oh, serial number. Where am I going? Oh. Okay. I remember equipping the rockets, dude. Ow, 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 ow. Alright, what you got for me, Doc?
It's
What you got for me,
unbelievable.
Osh?
Excuse me, sir. I am Cash, your friendly crime-fighting robot. Have you seen
My audio is so
anything
bugged.
suspicious around here? Anything gone missing?
Only some of my most valuable tools. Bunch of fiddly bits, what for tinkering with electronics. Old mess of radios. Couple of premium
Yeah, it's
quality axes. You name it. Listen, you gonna catch the bugger who did this or what?
Yeah, mate.
I will. After all, what would
Oh.
I do if I were not
It
catching
is my
anything?
headphones. Damn.
Do you have any leads on where they might have gone?
Hello, bucket of rusty doorknobs. What's up, man?
Except, of course, for the old cave behind the waterfall. But no one ever goes there on account of all the
Rippers nearby.
A hollow behind a roaring curtain. Like a cave behind a waterfall. Oh, love how my system works.
I miss Marcus. I can't go on, baby dog. Might just be fast to drive it. There's also a bolt on the island that I would like to go achieve. Go, my dice! Go! Kill them! Oh, I forgot I can cast 4 dice. Behold! My grenades! They heat seek. Oh god, that hurt.
Your fault must have held all your common sins.
God damn it!
God damn it. Oh. Oh. Oh, speak of the devil. Oh, toilet. Dumb. Ah, Jacob's sniper rifle, huh? I do like the crit ricochet. Oh. Oh, I have to, dude. I have to. It looks like this. How am I not gonna... How am I not gonna use this? Maybe we'll use a different kind of pistol. I don't know, man. Oh, I'm looking for this bolt. Is it in the boat? Oh, here it is. Cat sword. Let me see. How many? I should have gotten, yeah, a couple SDU points from that. 15? Nope. Not quite what I'm cracking.
Nice! Perfect for punching.
Go, my dice! Go, my dice!
That must have done.
Oh, chill, girl. Who's shooting? I'm bad.
See how you like it.
Later! Oh! Hey! Alright, I ate some of my carrots. Eating my carrots is... I don't know. Carrots always sit in my mouth for a very long time when I'm eating them. Give me another carrot. Yum. I'm kind of like a rabbit. Kind of like a rabbit if he were a white boy. Mm. Mm.
Let us see what Canansi has in store.
Later.
Rolling for Chris. The curtain jury is rolling. This has to be spun.
Hang on. Give me a second. Stand up. It's not worth it. Oh God.
I know a snitch when I see one!
Single action finally.
Bye.
You have rolled.
Honestly, kill anybody at this point. Don't even like worry about it.
I just wanted a new
I have your favorite.
Oh hell. Oh my God. Might be the worst shooter in the world.
Fun.
Sprang. Get sprang. Get sprunkled. You guys ever get sprunkled on? Couldn't be me. Kind of embarrassing, to be honest. Can you... like, get shot in the fucking head? Stop doing that. What are you doing? Well, come back to me.
Big money.
Ow. Oh, that guy's big.
Turn your back on me.
Not anymore. That was scary. Ow. Don't do this to me. Okay, he's gone. God. God in heaven. Bum, 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 bum. I cannot get Dominic Fike out of my fucking head. Can you guys, like... you guys know anything about trepidation? Can you, like, do that? But to yourself? But to me and your mom? Because I'm sleeping with your mom? Wow. Get it? I'm sleeping with your mom? I'm not sleeping with your mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be that offensive about it. But I am sleeping with your dad. What the fuck is this? Welcome to Plungeford.
The end is a promise.
Is near.
Curdle the cream.
To silence the echo, to waken from dream.
From the dream.
Embrace the end,
Embrace the end.
and you're never alone,
Sleeping
It
with my dad?
sweetens
Were you gonna be sleeping
the
with me?
blood.
What the hell?
and softens the stone.
All right, you freak. I put together your clothes. The radio, the axe, the waterfall. Put your hands up and no one gets hurt. No one but you, I mean.
The sadness. The sickness. No more bad thoughts. No more bitterness.
Oh.
Forever frozen and free. Forever frozen free. Join me.
So, what is on that radio?
The first ray of dawn, the
Oh.
thrill of the flight. Are these the happiest hours of all?
Damn. They don't tell you this, but carrots kind of hurt to eat.
Hope. in
Oh,
the
I got
deep of the
guacamole
night.
today.
Innocent faith before the fall.
One of my coworkers gave me some bagels, and I can't eat them all before they go stale, so I'm gonna make bagel chips.
Of my
Yum.
sweetest blood.
Kill me.
Now follow me, and I will show you the flood.
A brainwashed victim. But I was so in the mood to dole out some justice. Byron, I killed a psychopath, but I do not think that was the killer. The trail has gone cold.
Damn, meat is murder, folks. Meat is murder. Is this true? Oh, a pistol! A shotgun. And that can't go on, baby doll. 44? 43. But higher DPS. Really? Damn. 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 Was a bagel chip? It's a bagel, but it's chip. It's a bagel, but it's thin. I dip it in stuff. Like a chip. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a chip. I'm kind of like Matthew McConaughey if he was a chip. You know? Like a chip. Might I just say it over and over again and not explain what it means? Oh god, my mouth is so sore. I haven't eaten a piece of produce in forever. I forgot how long it takes to chew. Mmm.
Not another ship.
Celery is so much better.
I should check for survivors before the otter does.
What's that? I want to like Day Dallas. I want to. But I can't. They killed my dad. Again? Same as last time we played this. I look like a goddamn Fortnite character.
Rush, Conway.
Did I miss anything in here? No.
I made it to the surveillance.
Whoa, 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 whoa. This is the main quest. This is not what I want at all. Also, vault fragment. I want to do like this. Was not paying attention. They just threw me into the main quest. Jesus. Technically, meat is murder, but as in America, doesn't have a lot of crops, so the only way to support population is to eat meat. It's, kind of like Mongolia. Hey, Alaskan. How's it going? Not too bad. Just eating my dinner. Eating my dinner.
Really?
You there, citizen.
Are you feeling okay, friend? You are, if you will forgive the observation, positively plastered.
Yeah?
Yeah?
I'm feeling like a man. Like a man.
Me when I'm inebriated?
Like $40.
Damn.
This super good moonshine.
It's not too bad.
Hey! You should get you some. Just go talk to that sweet old man right over
What's this game about? Gives off Genshin-y vibes? Effectively.
there.
Like, every modern game is Genshin now.
I knew I'd remember.
Time to find this sweet old man.
What? Where am I going? Oh. Oh, whoa. Ah.
Do not make me turn this around!
Oh, got him. Ooh, got him in the mouth.
Ooh, a badass! Welcome to the table.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean a badass? What do you mean? Lube.
Mr. Moonshiner, no? I apologize if you are
Oh,
not.
tacos.
You just look like a moonshiner.
Tomato and onion tacos.
It depends on who's asking.
Are you
Not every
responsible
modern game.
for
Like Fortnite is an
absolutely
arena type
not a
game.
woman I just encountered. Huh?
Well, you
My
know.
stuff will do that to you. Old family recipe. I've been trying to sell it, but none of the folks around here can hold their liquor for nothing. No, what I need is a Pappy's helper. The old man's miracle cure takes you from tipsy to tip-top in no time. Got the recipe right here. Mind helping me whip one up?
I love being around drunk people. They are the easiest to swindle. What can I do for you?
I knew you was all right. Now, first things first is finding fruit on those cliffs over yonder.
What? Oh, the fruit! I love fruit! What?
Yeah, I ain't never had much use for the Pappy's helper myself, but Grandpappy used to make it for our weak-livered northern kin.
Why would you do all
That is a
that?
simple solution.
Well,
You did.
What? And disrespect my heritage?
just respect my heritage.
You see, now some of those seeds got real thin shells on them, but I need one that's good and sturdy.
Can you not, sir? Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Did I mention the seeds grow inside a special fruit that only grows on cliff sides, and that the local fauna love this fruit enough to kill them that tries to take it? No?
Damn, no brain. That sucks. Couldn't be me. Skill issue. Excuse me. Alright, let's see. I've done this quest before. I don't remember how to do it, though. Ow.
There's one. Get that fruit.
Ow! Jesus Christ! Hang on.
What is your wager?
Okay, switch me guns. Jesus.
There you go, see? Nothing to it. But yeah, that one's far from fresh. No good for my purposes. Find me another.
When do I go to the moon?
That is the way the dice roll.
Damn. What a call out.
Nice. Except the coloration on that one sucks.
Damn, okay, chill.
Oh, try again. Oh, A for effort, though. Grandmammy tried to get Grandpappy to patent the Pappy's helper, but he was never a real entrepreneur.
Damn, entrepreneur sounds good. I love a good entrepreneur.
I love it, the prize.
Oh my god, it's a badass! Hang on, switch me. This is not doing it. That's not doing it at all. Give me a pistol. Don't be fucking weird about it, man. What the hell are you doing? Why are you spitting out babies? Good God in heaven. Give me the Glock! Jesus. Don't do this to me.
On me.
God. He's dead.
Nail the ricochet.
Go away! Oh. They're like zerglings. They're like zerglings.
Single action fire.
Yeehaw, partner. Did I get it? There should be one more. Where is this thing? There it is.
Man, you got some kind of bad luck, huh? That's the worst one yet.
Jesus. This guy hates me. I don't remember where the other one is. I don't want to jump off, though. Could be down there. got the one that was there and there. I'm thinking it's down there somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe over here? Oh, whoa. Supposing not. Yeah, Alright, I don't know what this last one is. I'm thinking it's up on this left side, because there are two over there, so there's gotta be two over here. There it is. I'm blind. Climb.
Now that's a beauty. Nice curvature.
You still haven't told me what the game is about?
Yeah,
I don't know what the
that's
game is about.
one. Now head on back and let's get started. Hey, what do you think about me naming my moonshine after myself? Is that, what's the word? Pretentious? Old Shammy's family shine. Not technically poisonous. I don't know. It don't feel right.
Legally, I do not know if you can make
You, It's a game where you run around shooting at people and they shoot back. The question is, which of you will survive?
Now, we don't need the whole fruit, you see. Just its skin. Bust out the fruit and toss it, would you? Give it the old body slam.
Body slam.
There you go. Next, we're gonna need a geyser nugget.
Guys
Not
or
to be
nugget?
confused with guys or nuggets. The
Ew.
chicken restaurant / all-male erotic venue. You
Oh, I
know
see.
about geysers, ain't you? Big hole that shoots things out of it. Gotta be careful with geyser nuggets. Let one hit the ground, it's likely to blow you higher than that new moon we got now. You'll need to snatch one right out of the air and don't drop it.
Alright. That sounds simple enough.
The family shine ain't never rightly had a name. Oh, there's a geyser now.
this? A geyser? Are you dipping into your own supply, Shammy?
I reckon it's fit to burst. Just needs a little coaxing. Shake the ground, and it'll release the goods.
Ugh. Man, let me open this toilet.
The juice is loose.
Oh god.
Well done. The recipe for Pappy's helper says, if it's gray, walk away. So bring me a nugget that ain't gray, I suppose.
Oh. My bad?
Yeah. Ah, pathetic.
How am I? What? I was like, I'm shooting these motherfuckers in the head. Oh, red one.
Bring it on back now.
Bring on back now.
But now, unless you want to go all the way back for another anyway.
Excuse me. I got chicken stuck in my teeth. May God forgive me. I can't go on, baby, don't.
Okie doke. Now, last thing on the menu is a little tricky. We need a scent gland from one of those manglers you'll see gadding about.
One of those manglers.
Well, go on now. Get at it.
I will take care of these tricky scent glands for you, old man. And I will throw in a few extra, too. Free of charge.
Pizza? What kind? What kind of pizza?
Double the power!
Damn.
Don't fret now, that thing's got 8 more lives. Less than you caught it on the last one, in which case, good riddance. Now bring it.
Odds have gotten better! Here's your target!
No worry. I'll be taking these. Damn, do I really have to go to the other one? Fuck, they hate me. I wanna go all the way over there.
Hey!
Ow.
I actually like this one!
Oh, I leveled up. Pineapple and ham? That's a classic. A pretty classic slice.
You win some, you drain some!
Oh, guys, I need their spleens. Stop being weird about it. Oh, fuck!
You are on top!
Thank you.
If you scratched her, so help me!
What?
Thrilling!
Brilliant there.
Okay, now let's get to brewing.
Recipe says to mash up the scent gland with the seed.
Really get those juices all over the geyser nugget, too. That'll make it stick real good.
Good.
There we go. That should knock the stink off of pangolin and take it bowling. Not all my charming southern phrases make sense. Let's test it out. Couple
Drunks usually post up near the river to get
saucy on my shine.
Get
Make
saucy.
a hell of a racket. I used to run them off, but drunk as they get off one swig of wasty face.
that. Never remember. Right back the next night. Wasn't worth the trouble.
Wasty face.
Decided to call the stuff Wasty Face, by the way. Catchy, easy to remember, and lets you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Wasty Face. Get faced.
Sure, man. De-spike the beer supply. This is fucked up. Do 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 do. Why would I want to ruin their thing, man? They're chilling.
There they are again. Not to speak ill of my customer base, but just look at them idiots. Consorting with rippers, and that ain't even the worst of it. Just look. Every one of them 10 sheets to the wind. And they ain't even cleared a fourth of that. Hey, you done it. Now you gotta shoot a hole in the keg. but not until you get all them drunkards underneath it.
I can make a quick announcement with that microphone. Hello, inebriated folks. Do you know what is better than a keg stand? A Shiner soak, of course. Gather around. Everyone, gather around.
Now shoot!
I'm clear-headed, furious, and itching to fight.
Note to self, never sober up a drunk riddle. Here's your time.
Enough of that. Enough of that slosh, psycho. Whoa! Not that slosh. Ow, 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 ow.
Pardon the outburst.
Oh, that's a grenade. Whoa, whoa, legs. Oop, see ya, dude. Give me a second.
I'll never get to live forever.
He's never gonna live forever. That's so sad.
That was a close one. Now, who needs a drink?
I'd love to get comfortably sauced, but this keg ain't it.
Let's go see what old Sammy's got on offer.
Sammy, the majority of your customers were rippers, so I had to take care of them. But the ones with boats are sobered up and ready for another round.
Shame to lose paying customers, rippers or no, but you did it, Vault Hunter. When I finally buy me a boat, I'm gonna name it after you.
I'm gonna name it after you.
What is your name, anyways?
You can call me Cash or Grandson.
If you need an heir.
Need an heir
If you need an
to
heir.
carry forward the family crypt. I mean, legacy.
Consider it done. Hey, I know it's rough out there, so if you ever need to take the edge off, you know where to find me.
Oh. Alright. Ooh. Ball card points. Don't mind if I do. Or not. Just kidding. I'm a liar. Alright, I do want to do this. These are some areas I have not explored yet. The Bonescape, we need 4 more echo logs. 1 more survivalist cache, 1 more Evocarium, 1 more vault symbol, and that abandoned auger mine, which I don't know how to get into. Open sesame. Oh. Blooming Mookie. Mind if I do? The Haywire Shrine has a survivalist cat. Oh. Oh! Oh, okay. Can we not, lads?
Find the traveler!
Damn you!
Ow? This fucking guy, dude.
Cold draw.
Okay. Open. Where is it? I guess we're gonna have to get in that door somehow? No, it's up top. Up here? Ah, there it is. I don't know why it's over here, but...
Good for the gambling.
Ow. Let's just use all Jacob's weapons this run. Shotgun could come in handy. Nuke! Nuke is funny. Alright, that's been gathered. Let's go grab this thing. I don't know how you find all the echo recorders. I guess I know there's one there. I guess you have to be near it to see it. As far as the echo logs go. I couldn't tell you where the vault symbol is. I like the size of your mainframe. Why would he say all that? It's gross.
Did you come for an autograph?
Later. Later.
Built for a showdown.
There's no reticle on this site. That's fucking with me. That's a new one. No brain.
Oh, I love it, surprise. You will love this part.
Man, dude, these guys, there's so many of them for this little area.
A little recoil never hurt anyone.
Oh, hello. No brain. No brain. That's... Oh, I'm gonna open this. Hang on, let me open the tube. Thank you for opening the tube. The best. Might as well only use Jacobs. I don't know. I like the heat-seeking grenade. I don't know. Shooting the body? I was like, what's he doing? Wow.
You will love this part.
Ah, what a gamer.
Send as many as you want. They
Send...
are not me.
True. That's true. He's right. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do with these. Shoot them? Go get them? We're none of my business right now. I got stuff I gotta do. I got chests I gotta open. Oh, hello. Thank you. Alright, what's the deal with these? So I have to go get the orbs? Is that what's happening here? I have to go get the orbs? Alright, I'm going to get the orbs. He's the best. Do have to get the orbs. Oh, almost didn't make that. It's chill. No, there should be a third one. Usually it's in view. Can't even begin to imagine where it could possibly be, though. It's over here? Down? What? What?
Jeez, always with the violence!
Agreed. Where is this one?
Is that how I look from that angle? Ah, fantastic!
What? What? What does that even mean, dude? It's like underground. How do we even... How do I even think about getting there? I really do like the size of your main... There it is, found it. Thought he could hide from me. Couldn't hide from me. Oh, I haven't unlocked Heavy Ordnance, have I? I have not unlocked all the other stuff that goes into this game. I forgot about Heavy Ordnance. I wonder if Jacobs has something like that. No, they use knives. They got the knife shooter. Don't go
My
crazy.
name is Nereid, and I am
Many
many
things.
things. A protector, a sister, a siren. But above all else, right now, I'm lost. I can only hope that by looking back on the circumstances of my arrival, I might find some clue that will lead to my escape. It started, as these mysteries so often do, with a vault. I can only hope it will end differently.
Well,
Big money!
alright. That's that.
Big money!
Whoa, I closed the game and it's still playing. With that being said, folks, that's gonna be it for me on the stream today. Not much going on this stream. We did cover the Cuban Revolution. That was cool. I'm definitely gonna do that again next week for sure. Sort of in the same line. Probably gonna do whatever we talk about at the RCA this week. But I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna go get some dessert, and then I'm gonna go to sleep, and then go to work tomorrow. Alright, everybody. Have a good night.